7, Code of Ordinances of the City of New Braunfels, Texas adjusting water rates and changes for fiscal year 2026, providing for adjustments of water rates and charges for fiscal year 2027, resolving other matters incident and related thereto, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, containing a savings clause, and providing an effective date. We'll open this item to public hearing. If you'd like to speak to this item, please step up to the podium, state your name, whether you're a resident, non-resident, or live in the ETJ. And again, we'd ask that we avoid redundancy. If you agree with somebody, raise your hand to show support, but please don't get up and say the same thing.
Mr. Mayor, I'm learning. I am Wayne Rudolph, and I'm a resident of District Number 6. Mr. Mayor, council members, City Manager Camarino. NBU's graphic presentations this evening emphasize the very favorable utility rates compared to those of nearby cities. NBU's very competitive rates, coupled with its high reliability rating and its financial soundness, has provided New Braunfels with an excellent utility operation. NBU, however, fails to mention anything about another extremely important factor involved with its utility rate schedule: the fairness of those rates. Our families have been billed excessive water and wastewater availability rates compared with those charged to our commercial business sector. Council was given notice last week of these excessive homeowner charges, and that same notice is again displayed here this evening. As is shown, NBU uses a structured rate system based upon the amount of water demanded of NBU by each ratepayer. That demand is measured by the diameter of their pipe. NBU's system charges the ratepayer with the least water demand the highest rate, and the higher demand customer with the lowest rate. This rate structure reeks of unfairness. It is exactly opposite of NBU's proclaimed principle that its rate schedule places the majority of costs on high volume use. Council has been made aware of this water rate schedule is shifting thousands of dollars each year from the high water users to the low demand ratepayer, especially onto our homeowners. Will this council continue to ignore this unfairness? NBU is a publicly owned monopoly. Its power is only subject to this council. With that almost absolute power, NBU is commissioned to ensure that its water rate schedule treats every ratepayer equally. The schedule proposed this evening does not even pretend to offer equality. So again, will this council allow these unfair water availability rates to continue, or will you keep faith with your constituents and insist upon a fair and equal rate schedule? I have not used my 5 minutes, but I want to add two things. First of all, we've heard about a new construction of the headquarters building for NBU. I believe that figure, if my memory is right, is about $532 a square foot. Pretty close? You want to know how much the taxpayer is going to spend for a neighborhood library on South Walnut Avenue? Over $1,000 a square foot for a library. $532 per square foot for this is absolutely
Mr. Rudolph,
a
you can
steal.
come back and speak some other time about the library.
Yes, I will. May I speak about another rate?
If it's, as long as it's related to water rates,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
It will have to do with the water rates. That is the impact fee. You stated earlier that the impact fee is assessed at 100%. And that is essentially correct, except you forget to mention that for all of the apartment buildings in this city, they are awarded a 50% discount on the impact fee rate allowed. I did a study of 1,950 apartments in 7 apartment complexes, and we could have collected $25 million.
Mr. Rudolph, I'm sorry, but your
Which
time
we
is up.
lost. Thank you.
Mr. Kelso, do you want to address any of those?
Mr. Rudolph, thanks for your comments, and I enjoyed our discussion before this meeting. Got here a little early and was able to catch up with Mr. Rudolph, and the rate table that he showed is accurate, and the explanation for why our rates are structured that way is centered around what's called the cost of service. And it's utility best practice to assess rates based on the cost of service that are driven by each and every different rate class. MBU conducts cost of service studies roughly once every 5 years. We intend to do another cost of service study ahead of our next rate plan. So I've encouraged Mr. Rudolph to come out and join us to understand how those rates are calculated, specifically with commercial accounts. You're looking at the fixed charges associated with the bill. There are also variable charges, and I was explaining before the meeting that with commercial accounts, they're more steady in their usage, whereas residential customers are a little more volatile. And so we're able to maintain lower fixed charges for our commercial customers, relying on the variable charges to pick up a consistent amount of revenue for those businesses that use our resources. But on the residential side, there's quite a bit more volatility. So the best practice is to have higher fixed charges for the residential class, especially when you compare it on a per gallon per minute connection rate. So I encourage anybody that's interested in rate making and cost of service work. We're going to be taking it up with our community advisory panel over the next 2 years, and let's talk about it. What's fair and what's right. We believe that our current rate schedule is fair and right, but we'll see what the smarter consultants say about it when we take it up this next year. And then on the impact fees are assessed to apartments at a half LUE per door, and that's to reflect the fact that the apartment usage is about half of that of a residential home, because they do not have any outdoor watering uses, and in a lot of cases, they're smaller square footages. So from a fairness perspective, it's industry practice to assess apartments at 1/2 LUE, because that's the amount of use that they generate and demand that they put on the system. But it's just a fair and right thing to do, and it's a decision that's been made by the board and this council in the past. And again, when we update our impact fees in 2026 and 2027, that decision will be ripe again to evaluate and discuss what's fair and what's not. We'll bring the data to support the decision, and we'll make the decision at that point in time. Thanks for the opportunity to address that.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Kelso for his presentation. I think they've been excellent. They've given you a good view and also what I've always thought, that many of the problems we're facing with water and utilities here today, and I'm Jim Holster, Region in District 3, relate back to past councils. They made bad decisions with the utility. That's why our fees didn't go up earlier. So we're paying the cost for that. The sad part about it is it's low-income people are going to be impacted. And if all the data I look at, we're increasing the number of low people in town, and I'll go over that in a future council meeting. Now, so again, I appreciate Mr. Kelso, and we needed him much earlier in this process to be head of MB Utilities. So offsetting some of that, I think you need to consider, I know the council put in an extra $500,000 a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, into utility assistance. I don't know if we run out of money in the utility assistance programs. I know what you were putting there, but I don't know if we run out of money. And it also tells me that there's still a need there and that the council can look at supplementing that to put money like we did previously. So that's just a suggestion to help with water bills and with any of the bills. Now, also, you can take a look at the utility assistance program. It is very not customer friendly. It makes Social Security people bring their Social Security check-in, proof of it, every month. That's backward thinking, but that's another time. Now, I wanted to show this, and it's just a question because it relates to water. I was down in Gonzales here about a week ago. Traveled through town, there's signs all over the town. And then I'm at the feed store, Finner's Feed Store, which is a regional feed supplier. And it's not traditional that robots pack all the feed. You can go out into their facility and see it's state of the art. Now, while I was there, I'm in line with ranchers, and we always, because we're waiting in a long line to pick up our feed, then they ask me where I'm from, and I said New Braunfels. New Braunfels, they stiffen up. It's kind of you see the thing up there, the gun, the come and take it. Well, so they have a different attitude about some of the things. They're concerned that, and I know it's not just NBU, it's GBRA's sucking water out of Gonzales County, and I don't know what the terms of our contract are. But so are other cities, and some of out in the fields near where this well service is being pulled from the waters, wells are going dry for ranchers. So they're very much concerned, and so is the city about their future water. So we're kind of in this push and tug. So it just means we've got to plan better for water, and we've got to hope there's a hurricane that fills up Canyon Lake again. But you might, I just don't know if in the future, if we have new contracts with GBRA, because this is going, I'm not sure this will end up in a court case. And because Gonzales is going to oppose any more water coming out of their aquifer there, the Carrizo Springs. So anyway, I don't know if you have any thought, if you've been monitoring that too. I'm just curious, that's all.
I saw the same article just a few days ago. This is actually a different article than I saw, but it's been an ongoing discussion there in Gonzales County. There is an open permit request by GBRA for additional water for the plant expansion. MBU is not a participant
Not in that one, okay, I was curious. Okay.
So our permitted water, we have a contract with GBRA, very long term with automatic renewals. And our ploy, just to talk about our water resource planning, our tactic moving forward is to be as self-reliant as possible and not import water from other regions of the world. Yeah, I mean, we're in the hill country.
You're doing what you're having to do.
We're in the hill country. We've also talked about revising our service territories to reflect just the city limits and not encourage any kind of growth outside the county. So with all those points made, yeah, the water situation in the region is very tenuous and getting more so by the minute, but it's not going to impact our water authorization.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Think about that utility assistance.
All right, Timothy Davis, District 5. Thank you. All right, so about the water again, I'll put this up here again. If I'm wrong, please correct me. If my numbers are incorrect, please take a look. And they all have a copy. I emailed to them of that. And so if I want to correct me on those numbers, please do so, but 3-year increase, since 2023, this would result in 33% increase total if this goes through. Obviously, it's not as bad as what we're dealing with on the other situation, but water, I heard a lot of funny comments about water. You noted 3 of the sources of the water that makes our sources diverse are the Edwards Aquifer, the Canyon Lake, and Guadalupe. And I believe the Edwards feeds Comal Springs, doesn't it? Yeah. So they're all kind of tied together, and we talk like, oh, there's plenty of water, and then we bring in this diverse thing. And one of the comments you made, sir, was that the 36% now comes from Canyon. I still would like to get some clarity on that we're not pumping more water from Canyon. We're pumping a higher percentage now from Canyon Lake. Is that correct?
We have a higher percentage of permitted water from Canyon,
Not
though
pumping
we don't
anymore.
have the capacity to pump it.
We're not pumping any more capacity.
Right, we have the capacity to pump 8,400 acre feet of the 18,000 we have permitted.
Okay, so, but you did make a comment that if one of those goes away, we've got redundancy. Well, I'm sorry, if Canyon Lake goes away, the flow of Guadalupe River, we get another 14% goes away. And that's 40% or something like that. I'm just doing some quick numbers. That's a large chunk of our water disappears, and it's all from that one source, the Edwards on the springs. And then another one was Seguin, I believe they get the water from the river, which would be dry. So all these things would go dry, and we don't have the backup. So my point is that we're funding, as you showed us, we are funding here the growth. We're either paying for it in the rears, or we're funding it in the future because we're giving you the ability to fund those projects to expand. So we're just funding the growth. We're incentivizing it, we're helping it happen, and it's not what the citizens want. So, I don't know. The next item I'm not really opposed to. I wish we would take a study of where the heck, how much water is enough. Who was right? Maybe you're right. Maybe we've got plenty of water, Mr. Leonard. Maybe we have plenty of water. Why don't we spend money, instead of paying someone, when we have people making $300-something thousand a year to run a company, instead of paying a consultant to show us how to sell this to the public, why don't we spend a study finding how much water is too much, or how much growth is too much? What can we sustain? Because I don't see any talk about that.
Appreciate the comments, and certainly well taken. The table that you showed on the rate side, those various components that you pointed out, for each of those, I noticed some of them were the variable portion of the rates, and some of them were the fixed portion. What we're talking about is an aggregate. So whenever you're doing rate increases for a utility, you've got to create that balance, and that's where whenever they're blended, the rate increase comes down. It could look shocking based on if you're just looking at the fixed rate, but not acknowledging the variable rate increase. So, and then on the water front, another point very well taken. And whenever we do our planning efforts, like I said, we do master planning for water resources as well. So we'll come back to council in the fall to talk about that picture of what does the water future look like, because we're going through what is likely a repeat of the drought record, right?
That's what we need to hear, not the dismissal.
Well,
The dismissal is what?
It's something we've got to keep a close eye on to ensure the long-term viability of our resources. We do have a very big water portfolio that takes very well care of the needs of today, but it's something we got to keep an eye on. So, yeah.
I'm Bobby Avery. I am a resident here. Also, I've been on the RAC committee, and I'm on the CAP committee. Just for the water alone, so I won't discuss the other two. For months and months, in the last 3 years, I guess, we've been meeting and discussing the rates, how it affects people. I've been retired almost 9 years, so When I, like you, look at a hamburger, what they cost, $5 9 years ago? Buy me one of those today. Our meetings are open to the public. They're on the websites. Our mayor this year and this term and our previous mayor came to almost every meeting. Our council people are also welcome to the meetings. The information that Ryan went over in 55 slides and then some is very condensed on what we were able to get. It's one of the most complicated pieces of information I've had to deal with in years. It has to do with me, and it has to do with you. It has to do with the people out here. If they would like more information, come to the meetings. Like to have them there. They're open meetings, public open meetings. Thank you very much.
Those of you that know me, I've gotten a lot better at preparing my thoughts rather than just going off the cuff. Mayor, council, city management staff, MBU, and staff, my name's Justin Meadows. I'm a resident of District 2, local small business owner and active member of our community, serving in various capacities and roles. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight on issues that affect all of us as residents, those that either own or work in a local small business, and as well as our civic organizations. I'm confident that we all agree financial decisions affect all of our households, our businesses, and our local governments are incredibly important. Such decisions have real impacts in our lives and deserve to be approached with the utmost diligence. Having had an opportunity to serve on the MBU board or community advisory panel, along with 12 other residents that stepped up to serve and citizens that chose to engage us, I can assure you no rock has been left unturned in our efforts to develop the recommendations that we made to the MBU Board of Trustees, which most heard in the presentation this evening, many of which are also implemented in the rate plan before you. MBU staff has placed every ratepayer at the forefront of their efforts throughout this process. It's been an arduous task, but it's been well worth the journey. How do I know? I witnessed it with my own eyes. Tonight you're hearing some comments that are clearly informed based in fact and purposes for the purpose of making the right decision for our community, keeping all of us as ratepayers as the top priority. You're also hearing some comments that are clearly uninformed, and I would encourage those individuals to seek guidance from MBU, as I know that they would be more than happy to sit down and explain everything that we have gone through. While all of the comments made are important, I want to remind you that the issue driving tonight's decision is largely about capital needs required to update incredibly aged, some cases over 75 years, aged infrastructure that is in our existing neighborhoods, servicing our existing taxpayers or ratepayers and maintaining regulatory compliance. The majority of our community recognizes that doing the right thing isn't always easy, and in many cases it's very unpopular. Regardless, it's always the right time to do what you know is right. As a citizenry, I'm asking you to remove any emotion that you may have around this issue from the decision you're about to make to do the right thing so that issues of the past can be addressed rather than push them down the road, burdening our future generations at even a higher cost. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. I know we're getting late, so I'm going to keep it quick. I'm going to just first raise my hand to echo what my two former CAP members just shared. My name is Ian Pettis. Sorry, didn't say that. I'm a resident of District 3, also a CAP member. I was originally part of the Rate Advisory Committee as well. So we've, as I expressed, we sat through many, many meetings and looked at this complex issue every which way that we could. We looked at a multitude of scenarios, trying to figure out what was the best way that we can maintain that reliability and that affordability for every citizen. I don't want to pay any more, just like nobody else does. I mean, we're all paying the same rates. So it's not something that we made in haste. This isn't something that we just willy-nilly threw up some percentages that we thought would be beneficial for MBU and their staff. No, this is something that's going to be beneficial to the community because it's something that we all need. If we don't invest that dollar now, we're going to pay 100 later. I mean, that's the bottom line right there. If we don't get the infrastructure where it needs to be, if we don't do the planning that needs to happen, then we're just going to pay the piper down the road. And we can't keep kicking the can down the road. I mean, that's it. And I'm like I said, I won't belabor the point. I think we've all heard the same thing. So thank y'all. I just hope that y'all support this. It's the best thing for our community. Thanks.
Seeing no one else, we'll close public hearing.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Councilmember Ryan moves for approval. Councilmember Lebowski seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next item up is a public hearing and approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 130, Article 5, Section 130-257, Code of Ordinances of the City of New Braunfels, Texas, adjusting sewer rates and charges for fiscal year 2026, providing for adjustments of sewer rates and charges for fiscal year 2027, resolving other matters incidental and related thereto, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewithin or herewith, containing a savings clause and providing an effective date. And we will open this as wastewater. If you would like to speak to this item, please step up to the podium, state your name, whether you're resident, non-resident, or live in the ETJ.
Timothy Davis again. I'll be brief. I do want to say something nice because I did, say some mean things. But I want to be fair. I think your presentation on that was superior to the others, and I wish you would go back to that. I still think something needs to be addressed before the next meeting about this item to clear that up. And I would ask for you to post that. I know those numbers don't look good for you, but it presents honesty, and it helps with the public when we see things and we hear deceptive things that could be perceived that way, and it comes across more genuine. So I would appreciate that as a citizen. I think your point about the, what's the plant, the aging plant, and then, yeah, I got a lot of notes. But I think that actually made a lot of sense. So, and that's something, being a pool guy, knowing about pipes and all that stuff, I totally understand it. So, thank you very much for that. I would not be opposed to that rate, even though it is exorbitantly high increase. So, thank you.
Seeing no one else, we'll close public hearing.
Motion to approve as outlined in the item number.
I second.
Mayor Pro Tem Spradley moves for approval. Councilmember Lebowski seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. And with that, I believe we are adjourned.